Good afternoon, buenas tardes, bienvenidos a ¿Qué pasa, Mujer? Estamos aquí todos los domingos a las 4 de la tarde Eastern Standard Time. We're here every Sunday at 4 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. And today we're going to have part two of our very exciting show that we had before when we were talking about the economy. And as I promised, every single time we have a show, I'm going to say that we as Latinos contribute to the US, just the US economy, $3.2 trillion. So just want to make sure that you guys hear it nice, loud, and clear. $3.2 trillion. So today is just Nicte and I, and we're going to keep talking about this hot topic that's going on. So Nicte's going to tell us a little bit about what she's been doing because she's been doing a little bit of life. And our producer, Mark, is going to bring her in a few seconds. And we're just going to talk about just the impact that we have. Hola, Nicte.
Hola. I think we should just have like a little song that says, ¿qué es 3.2 trillion.
3.2.
Dinerito, dinerito, dinerito.
Yeah. What
Yeah,
have you been up to? What's going on in your world?
Oh my goodness. Well, we're in the middle of what the military life calls a PCS, which means permanent change of station or duty station, meaning we're moving again. So life has been lifing. I think that's the thing that people say, right? So this is
if
why
they don't, it is now.
It is now. La vida, I don't know how you even say it in Spanish. Vida viviendo, that doesn't even make sense. But this is why you see the beautiful Que Pasa Mujer background, because I no longer have my office in place. We're literally down to bare walls, Arab mattresses, and we're like in that lifestyle for almost a month and a half. This has been the longest time that we haven't had our stuff, but because it's technically like an overseas or it's going across the seas, they had to pick up our stuff early. In retrospect, there are people that I know that they pick up their stuff like 3 months early. And so perspective, just learning a lot, learning to be in quiet time. It's a lot more challenging when you have a little one moving, trying to keep them, como se dice, entretenido. So yesterday they had a Valentine's Day dance, but my son was like, I think that it's only girls going. And, with everything going on, I totally forgot about it. So I told him, okay, let's make up our own. And the three of us, we just made up a game where we were just kind of going around in circles and we were dancing, and then my husband would stop the music and then we'd freeze, and then we made up another game where we would put papers on the floor, pusimos ahí, and then we asked my son, okay, what numbers do you want to put? And then daddy's going to call the number. We have to run and stand on the number, kind of like the musical chairs. And our son was having a blast. He did -1 trillion, then he did 10,000, 3, 5, like they were all over the place. And we played like that for maybe like 3 hours. So that's what we called our sweetheart dance. And
Nice.
it was fun. It kind of makes you appreciate the things that we take for granted. Las cosas que a car, having your furniture, little things that when you have it all the time, you don't think about it. And you would think that I would know by now because we've moved so much. In almost 13 years, we've moved. This will be our 5th base, and we've moved twice every time we've been in that city. So we've moved 10 times within the 13 years. So you would think by now we'd be like, this is easy, but this one's a little more challenging. There's been a lot more to do, a lot more things that my husband has to do for us to go. It's not just saying, I think what a lot of the civilian sector, and I know my family still doesn't get it after so many years, is that you don't say, I'm just going to move and Paco uno, yeah, you show up. Like there's all these other things that have to happen. A whole nother process. It literally is a job in itself. So just taking it a day at a time. And I think this is the first time in all the years that I'm just going more with the flow. Yes, it's very stressful, but going more with the flow and honoring saying no to things that I used to say yes to because I didn't want to miss opportunities. That FOMO of like, ay, me voy a mudar. I don't want to say no to this. I'm like, nope, I can't. If my team and I can do it within like a certain type of project, great, within this time frame. But if not, it's going to have to wait until, the next quarter because that's life be lifing. So just being able
Mhm.
to honor that and staying in confidence in that. So life is crazy. A lot of bad things have happened that I I just don't want to share here, but I think that I've learned that if si uno se deja caer, for those little things, or you start complaining or surrounding yourself with people who love to complain, it just brings you down. So, me,
Of
I'm all about
course.
positive energy, refocusing, and just looking forward to hopefully the very last move before my husband can
You really
retire.
believe that? You think that's a last move?
Also, I mean,
It's
we're both
not,
done.
because
Let's
then
just
you have
put
to
it.
come back to over here
Oh yes, yeah, but I meant the last move where they tell us to move. The next move will be where we choose
by choice.
to set our, yes, by choice in all the years. It'll be 20 years for my husband, and it'll be 13, whatever 4 years from now will be. Um, it'll be 24 for my husband. I don't know anymore. I've lost track, but it'll be nice in a really long time to be able to say where we want to go, and that will be the next move. But
That
this
would be
should be the
nice.
last
Yeah.
move where someone else tells us where to go.
Where to go.
So yeah,
Yeah. So you'll
yeah,
get your
which is nice.
part of your freedom back a little bit. I know the other day I was
Yeah.
talking to Brian, our cousin. He called me
Yes,
because
yes.
he's in the Air Force and he's in New Jersey. So he was trying to find
Mhm.
out how far he is from here so he can come and visit. So it's just a
Oh.
different type of lifestyle. And
Mhm.
you just kind of have to just go with the punches, as it comes. We
Yes.
just flow. And I just think it's fortunate that you are in a field where you can kind of move around,
Gracias a Dios.
at your leisure. So it ended
Mhm.
up working out. Um,
Yeah.
so for me this week, it's just been, I really haven't had a lot of time to like reflect or anything like that, to be honest with you.
Mm.
We're in the process of just making college decisions for my son,
Mm.
military college, apprentice school, just a lot of stuff going on, just making sure on my end, I just want to make sure that he looks at all his options, and then for
Mm. Is
him
he
to make
thinking
the
about joining
decision
the
as
military?
reserves, maybe
Oh,
reserves. It's on the table. It's on the table. So
well, he
I
needs to
just
talk to
my job
someone.
as no, it's my job, I believe, as a person to make sure that he listens to people in the different fields as to what his options are,
Mhm.
and the pros and the cons, and then you decide for yourself, because you don't want later on to say, "Oh, mom told me to go," so you just decide as you choose. So that kind of has
Mhm.
been the environment over here on my end. um so the topic that we're going to talk about today, we Maddie and I had kind of started talking about this, and we kind of gave props a lot to Nicte because we showed one of her business cards, and we talked about how she uses the word cultura in her business card, but even if you don't speak Spanish, you understand that cultura means culture, right? So Nicte, I wanted to kind of get your input a little bit, in reference to, if you are even if you are Latino, right? Like even for me, like I've
Mhm.
been in this country since I was 9, right? So maybe I'm a little bit disconnected from the cultural thing of how Latinos do things today, because I might have a family that I can sell my services to or my goods to, and they've only been in this country for 5 years. And so how
Mhm.
do I get them to be attracted to what I sell or provide for them? And that's the piece, that's kind of like what we're talking about, because we do, as an economy, contribute the $3.2 trillion just to the United States, and that's not even counting all the numbers, right? Because some people's numbers
Mhm.
are not included in there. So just imagine the massive amount of money that's rotated in the United States. So, what are some things that you have experienced, that you have done from your expertise, that entrepreneurs can incorporate into their advertising and marketing strategies to sell to the Latino community?
Mhm. I love that question, and that's such a great topic, and you really really nailed something so important when you were saying that. And I think that it's very important for brands, business owners, entrepreneurs, anyone who's really trying to connect with our community, even if you are Latino owned or Latina owned business, that it's important to understand that we all have different stories and different times when we came to the US, whether it could have been from our grandparents and they could be fifth generation, they could be the first generation, um, this it's it's very important to keep this in mind because there is different ways to connect with these communities, whether it's through language, through certain way of thinking, and the root of it is stories. And stories, it's not saying, ay, te voy a leer un cuentico, I'm gonna sit and read a book to you. No, it's these conversations that we have even on our show, which are stories, things that we've talked about, how we grew up or our experiences, and how you can connect with your audience is by tapping into these stories that go beyond saying, oh, you're a Latino, you need to buy from me because I have a service for you. Well, how do I connect with you? How do I know that you understand where I'm coming from? So sometimes it's a matter of thinking, I want to really reach the younger generation, which is the Gen Z in terms of Latino population. For the youngest population, actually, the youngest population, Gen Z is dominated by Latinos. Like, that's why we are going to be the big majority. I think it's by 2050. I think that's kind of when it's projected that we're going to be one of the majorities in this nation. And so it's important to start considering that it's not a nice to have us or providing services to us that speak to our culture, nuestra cultura, our language. It's going to be essential for brands starting to do that now so they don't fall behind. It's kind of like the thing with AI. AI is not going to go anywhere, and people who are still pushing that back, they're eventually going to fall back. So what's important to understand is who you're going to market. These younger generations of Latinos and Hispanos, one of the things that I think is very powerful about their generation, and Viviana, you might also experience this with mi sobrino Troy, um, that they are more outspoken about things that they've seen or ways of growing up that I feel like even in my generation or our generation that we weren't encouraged to speak up. We were kind of more like, you stay quiet, you don't have a voice. And these younger generations are more open. And so they're opening these things, they're opening these conversations, which are giving you ideas into stories. One example is there's a lot of, I think his name is LeJuan James, and I don't think he's a Gen Z. I think he might be like a millennial, but he does a lot of comedy that focuses on stories around being Latino. So he'll use stories about how it says, what Latina's mom do when you try to go sleep over at a friend's house. And his whole skit is, ¿Cómo que vas a ir a la casa de alguien más? Like, how are you going to go sleep at someone else's? Like, he really touches on the cultural norms that are a part of that, but then he also acts out what the young child might be feeling. So when you look at those, yes, it can be comedy, but it's stories that can share how we are so connected to our families that older generations might have sometimes trust issues, or they might not trust the environments. And so if you have a product or service that is going to give these parents a peace of mind, then you can tap into those stories and tell stories in a way that it's going to really reach the emotions, because that's why we buy. That's why whether it makes us feel safe, it makes us feel good, it makes us feel like we're part of the cool group, there's always emotion in what we do. And the key to connecting with us is being able to tell these stories. Here's another example of a story that won't work, a story that is very biased and is unfortunate even within our Latino communities. And this is a story I'm retelling from one of my old directors when I was doing a course with LinkedIn. And he was telling us, I was doing a course on color and culture connections. And I was telling different stories about how brands misuse color for communities. For example, para los Latinos, they'll use sombreros and maracas and, sometimes they use the colors of the Mexican flag, and I'm Mexican, but I'm also mixed. And I, even as a Mexican mujer, I find it very biased because that doesn't define our culture. But sometimes they'll use that to convey to the entire community. And
Because that's
he
all
had
they
told me
know.
a story. That's all they know. And it's because it's, if you do a stock search or a Google search, because of that biases has been so ingrained in the search, that's what's coming up at the top. And someone who does like a 5-minute Google search, they're like, oh, okay, well, let's use that. And that's not it. And
It's
so
like the
he was
concept
saying,
of like, sorry to interrupt, the concept
no,
of
no,
like Cinco de Mayo, right? So it's like
see,
everybody in the United States thinks Cinco de Mayo. And I don't even, because I'm not gonna quote anybody, but I think I don't even know that they know what Cinco de Mayo is. Is it just a Mexican thing? Is it a Latino thing? They just know Cinco. That's a drinking day. Cinco de Mayo. We're going to the Mexican spot and we're gonna go drink margaritas, right? So
mhm.
even that concept, we just kind of like end up buying into it.
Yeah, and no, it's true. And it's because marketing has done us wrong in that sense. So some people think Cinco de Mayo is the Mexican Independence Day, which is not, but it's to celebrate a Batalla de Puebla. Um, and it's not even like, even my Mexican family will say that they don't really celebrate it that big in Mexico. Like it's only here that they do that. And so, what is frustrating is that appropriation that is misused. It's just for a reason to make a sale. And restaurants and that type of industry really captivate on this. And it's frustrating. And I think over time, people started to see that. They start to get frustrated. And really, the people who celebrate it here are not necessarily Latinos. So that is something to keep in mind, how you are, what you are marketing, what you're doing. To go back to the story that I was going to say, was there was a big company, and I believe the story was, I don't want to call the company out, but it was a company that did trucks, very well known company. And it's not Ram, I will say that, but they were doing an ad where they wanted to promote it to Hispanic and Latinos, but their whole thing is that they just wanted to feature construction workers. Our community in this incredible country has a lot of people who do the really hard work, where they're out in the fields sacrificing, being in the terrible elements, but that's all that they think of us. They think that that's all we are. And we come in so many different shapes and sizes and different abilities, that this commercial was incredibly biased, because they had a version where they had two white guys going surfing and living the life, enjoying, everything. And they had suggested, why don't they do that story of featuring Latinos, where they're out in the elements, with their families. You're again capturing those stories about the family being the nucleus. And the person who was, because the director at that time that was telling me the story had suggested that, and saying, why are we trying to feature these guys going to build a house, going to get the construction materials? That's the bias story that's been told by not just this company, many companies do that still to this day. And a lot of people agreed, and the guy said no. They had the pushback. And when they launched that commercial tanked, because it was so biased. It was, you're defining the value of a community by this this type of work, that they're kind of like belittling people at that, the way that it was directed, instead of telling stories of, maybe they wanted to build their own house, but there are lawyers on the side. Like, you can tell different angles or different stories. Or they wanted to build the house for their parents because they came and really succeeded. They have a thriving business and they wanted to give their parents a house. You see how, like, in un poquito, we can turn that story around. And those are the stories of, whether it's stories of how people immigrated here, stories of how some of the struggles they've been through, but then the bright side of their hard work. And you're showing that storyline in a more relatable way, because going back to our younger generations, that generation is like, they'll call out the BS, and I think also social media, there's a lot more access to that than when we were growing up, that people are able to call brands out more for this. So they don't stand as much, or they don't accept the unacceptable. They speak up about it, which I think is
Right.
really powerful, and things that we can learn from when we market to audience. So Viviana, let me ask you a question. Have you seen that, like, the, with your sons, um how they become more outspoken? I know you've talked about saying that they're proud to be Colombian, that they talk about their heritage.
Yeah, they're m- my children, they have two complete personalities. So one is an introvert, the other one is an extrovert. But even the introverted one, he still, well, speaks out about his culture. So I know even within his friends, his peers, he defends the fact that he's Colombian, and he defends, that piece of him. And they actually embrace it because they know, again, we have the reputation that our food is delicious, right? So whenever
Mhm.
they hear that I'm cooking, or something, like the other day I was making curry chicken, right, which is not from Latin America, right? Um,
Mhm.
but I was making that, and he loves, that's one of the favorite dishes that I make that he
Mhm.
likes. So his friends are like, "Oh man, like, can I get a plate?" Comments like that. So they always they have. I've never had my boys come to me and say that they had a bad experience, or they're being
Mhm.
bullied, or negative comments because they're mixed. Their dad is black, right? So when you see my boys, you know that they're mixed, but you know that they're mixed with black, but you don't know the other part. And
Mhm.
again, it's regional, right? So we're in Hampton
Mhm.
Roads in Virginia. So maybe people are thinking that they're half black and half white if they see them. But once they see
Mhm.
me, they're like, "Oh, they're mixed with Latin."
Mhm.
But they've
Mhm.
never, to my, and I can ask them, but to my knowledge, they've never been. And when I do documents for the school, I always put Hispanic, Latino, for sure.
Qué bueno, yeah. Mhm.
Yeah. So I
Yep.
make sure that I'm part of the statistics and that my children are too. But yeah,
Yeah.
they love it. Like, even especially my oldest son, because he's more on social media, he'll post things
Mhm.
about Colombia all the time.
Love
I think
that.
even one of his emojis is like the Colombian flag. When I went to Colombia a couple of months ago, like, they both have their own Colombian flag in their room, and they asked for it.
Mm. Aw,
Mhm.
that is awesome.
So
See, and that's
they embrace it. And I think, just in general, Nicte, I think the parents that uh, push or decide to teach their culture, their traditions to
mm,
their kids, even if it's a household of the same culture.
mhm.
If you push the traditions, if you teach them the traditions, I think they might complain about it, but they end up embracing it because that's what they know.
Yeah. Yeah. That is so
Mm.
true. And I love
Like
that you
the whole
said that too,
chancleta
because
movement, that has really gone over more than Latinos today, you know?
oh my goodness, yeah, yeah. That and it's, yeah, our stories. Part of our stories that now are going mainstream, and now you can talk about that, and more people understand what that means, and being able to pull from those stories. I think what is so important to understand at the root of who we are as a community is that we're so diverse. We come from so many different countries. And I mean, you and I are cousins, but we have different experiences from how we grew up, different perspectives. So if you and I are family, imagine people who are Latinos, who are strangers that we don't know, that we all have different stories, even in the way of speaking for us. I don't really think I ever get a full-on Colombian accent. I like poquito, pero no me sale el Ave María
Muy
Purísima
obvio.
that often. Sí, muy obvio.
Mhm.
But it's these stories that still are different but bring us together at the nucleus of family is so important to us. Family in how we raise our children, being, sometimes you hear about how parents were so stern, or, going back to generations, and some was very extreme. But it's a lot of those, and we've had this conversation, them having to be instilled that, like, you have to work hard and that's all you have to do. You suck it up and you just keep moving forward. And that mentality affected a lot of what was trickled down. And right now, we and even younger generations have resources that our ancestors didn't, to heal all these cultural traumas or these things. But when you think into the psychology of, well, I don't understand why, if you're someone who's not of our community and trying to understand why are we so connected to family, or why are parents so stern sometimes with their children, it's these cultural nuances that come from how we were raised and things that were passed on. And if you aren't aware of those, and you come out with a product that, let's say you're trying to promote, I don't know, a new phone or a new app that targets your children, and you're trying to reach the Hispanic market, knowing that, parents worry about their children and family and the nucleus. And they said, so that way you can keep track of your children and know all the bad things that they're doing. And, you're in control. And it might appeal some of the parents that might really need that. But when you think about the younger generations, who they're going to use that for, how are they feeling? How is that going to connect with them when they are the future? And they're the ones that are saying, well, we want to have more conversations. We want to have, more of this, being able to have a voice within our community. So again, thinking about these stories, but not agregarle fuego a la leña. What is it?
Mhm.
Feeding fire with
Adding
fire.
fuel to the fire. Mhm.
Yes, yes. So thinking about how can you take our stories, whether it's pain points, experiences, and turning that positive thing, because ultimately we're not going to buy something that's going to make us feel better. We want something that's going to make us happy or give us peace of mind in the right way.
Fix a
So
problem.
yes, yes. And I think that's the big problem, is that brands don't invest enough time to get to know us, to understand in what context they're going to use, whether it's a commercial, an ad, branding, anything. Like, all of
So
these
let me ask
elements
you
are
a
so
question
important.
since you're talking about that.
Hmm.
So, what would you recommend? So, there's a couple of firms that are marketing firms,
Hmm.
and they get hired by companies to teach them how to properly market to us, right?
Hmm.
So, what would you tell, like, we talked about this on the show before, like, so we've had many examples of like politicians that that don't speak Spanish, but then they learn a phrase, and then that's their way of connecting to us so we can vote for them,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
Because even sometimes, as me as a Latina that's bilingual, I like to see advertising in Spanish too. Like, I engage with the English advertising and the Spanish advertising. So
Hmm.
what would be your recommendation, or what are your thoughts about a non-Spanish speaking, we'll stick with the politician, right?
Yeah.
Scenario that they're saying, "Oh, vota por me," and with the gringo accent or whatever, and that's all they know. Like, how can we help
Hmm.
that person uh do a better job selling to us?
I love that. So I would start with, don't use the same term that every other politician is going to say, vote for me. If you turn it around, where, and I'm not really into the politics world, I've never really branded for politics, but you can turn things around and say, help me do better. Ayúdame a mejorar nuestra comunidad. Sé parte de esto. Like, you're inviting people to be a part of what you offer. And yes, it's more than vota por mí, but I believe that when someone says something and they genuinely want to learn to do better, and I mean, we're not going to get into politics. I feel like there's a slippery slope of who actually does what they say they do.
Hmm.
But when you invite people to be a part of a solution, you can get more traction that way, because you're not telling people what to do. No one likes to get told what to do. When you invite people, Viviana, vota por mí. Instead of, Viviana, me encantaría que fueras parte de esta historia. ¿Quieres venir conmigo y ser parte de esto? Like, it completely changes the perspective because you feel more excited. I'm like, gosh, here she goes asking me to vote for her. So it's the language, you know, it's how we use that and thinking about our energy as a community, that we are energetic, and whether you're, ¿cómo se dice? Uh, introvert, extrovert, right? We still have introverts and extroverts within our community, even though we're full of energía and, you know, we talk with our hands, we're very expressive. We still have people who are introverts. So you find a way that's welcoming, warm, feels genuine, that people can feel that. We can feel that when someone's being really genuine, because, you know, you can see, you know, I can be like, Mira, Viviana, it's so great to see you. I'm so happy to see you. I hope you vote for me. And then they kind of do that, you know, that face, and
Right,
you're like, wait,
right, right.
was that real? Are you just telling me so I can vote for you? So I really think it's very important to address people in a way where we are feeling like we're not just a number to them. That is where change happens, yes. Because we have so much purchasing power, like you've been saying,
How much?
we 3.2 trillion.
Yeah.
That was the doorbell for 3.2 trillion. It was perfect timing.
Perfect timing.
Perfect timing. But I think that that's where it's important, because I have seen so many Hispanic and Latinos saying, oh, well, this candidate is just trying to get our vote because we're the majority of people who are going to be the majority in the future. We have all this purchasing power. They just want our vote. So politics is tough, trying to convince people of what you want to do versus what's going to get done. But the idea is, if you want change, you have to invite people to be a part of that change. Sé parte del cambio. That could be something else that they say. Me encantaría que fueras parte de este cambio. Make people feel like they are needed, in that sense, that they belong in that. And it's not just like, oh, I just need you here because I need your vote. Because, yeah, that might be what they're saying, but give people a reason to believe in you. So I love
Right.
that you brought that up. And I think that what's also important is to avoid some biases. There's a book from someone that I really admire within the branding industry. And I don't think that he meant anything bad when he wrote it, but there was a part where he added a Hispanic character into the storyline, and, you know, saying all these, and by trying to connect with a Spanish character, he said, oh, the guy said they left a meeting and he said, vaya con Dios. I'm like, I don't think I've ever left a meeting and I've ever told anyone to say, I've never told them vaya con Dios. Like, I don't tell that to my coworkers. So this was context from our culture that was misplaced, or misplaced. It wasn't put in the right context. You could say
Right.
that to your families. Like, we'll say bendición because, you know, we want the blessing from our family. But I would never say my
In
coworkers
a
after a
professional
meeting.
setting.
Yeah, it just, you know, or you could say
And I
que,
think
que
too,
son
it
bendecidos.
depends, Nick. It depends too, Nick, because I think like it depends on the environment, right? And who
Yeah.
the people that are engaging. So like I'm an entrepreneur and I'm not a franchise, right? So a
Mm-hmm.
lot of people say, have a blessed weekend. They say that on
Sí.
Fridays or Saturdays, but it's because
Mm-hmm.
we have like I'm not in a corporate setting on a
Yeah.
conference table with peer, so it's different like
Mm-hmm.
that. So
Yes.
yeah, I think just like we don't want to overthink it. We don't want you guys to think that you need this is like, oh my God, it's so stressful. Let me hire Nicte and her team to come up with a strategy and it's gonna be expensive. But I just think it's really looking at your leadership, right?
Mm-hmm.
And especially and it's not just politicians, but just in general. Like when I go to a place and for me to see diversity, right, in a
Mm-hmm.
corporation, or because I might not know everything, and I think and again, don't quote me on this because I haven't done a lot of research on it, but I'll use it as an example. Barack Obama, for example, he nominated Maria Sonia Sotomayor, right?
Mhm.
During his placement as the president, he nominated her. He also nominated the U.S. Department of Education superintendent, which he's also Puerto Rican, right? So as a
Mhm.
leader, you may not be completely in the culture or know the culture or have the time to learn the culture, but if you can have one or two staff members that knows the Latino culture, the Asian culture, the Black culture, the, you know what I'm saying, the different cultures, then I'm surrounded by a team that can advise me to make sure that I'm not breaking any rules that are going to hurt uh that particular community, if that makes sense.
Mhm. I
And
love
it could be done in
love
a
that.
small scale or a large scale. Like my personal assistant is male. It's a man, so that's not something
Mhm.
that you find a lot, right? And I would have to kind of go back because now, like, I'm checking myself, right? Even within my staff, it's pretty diverse now that I think about it. So and it wasn't done with intention. It just happened to be that way. But we can definitely be intentional about hiring that way. And don't
Mhm.
hire me just because I speak Spanish or because I sound Hispanic, right? Hire me, number one,
Mhm.
because I have the skills, but also, and because I sit on the board for two organizations. And one of the reasons why I'm on that board is because I am Latina, right?
Mhm.
Because I help bring the Latino community to that organization's objectives. But they
Mhm.
were transparent with me, right? And I'm
Mhm.
okay with that. It's like a win-win. So, and I don't want to say that they're using me for this, but I love the fact that I'm being used for this, right? Because it's helping my
Mhm.
community. But
Yeah.
it's transparency. So as long as we can have those conversations, we're good.
Mhm. I love that you said that that's transparent because I feel that there's no unspoken or assumptions or, whatever it is that people in situations like that might feel. And now I think that you would be more open because ultimately it's going to help. It's a win-win situation, like you were saying. And I feel that sometimes that transparency is needed for people to say, hey, honestly, we're really looking for someone who can help us advocate within your community because we are still learning. We want to make sure we do right by this. And we want someone in our board, in our team, or as an ally that we can reach out to help us in that process. And
Hmm.
I feel that one of the most powerful things that anyone who's trying to reach out to us in our market can do is you could do even a focus group if you're trying to launch something, whether it's a campaign or a brand. Try to reach out to key people in the community that you are trying to promote to, or even people who you could partner with. There could be a mutual benefit where you can both benefit from this and say, hey, this is what we are looking to promote. So this is the campaign that we're looking to put out for the community. We want more involvement from the Latino and Hispanic community. Can you help us? These are our goals. Can you let us know, how does this resonate? How do you feel? Always asking those key emotions. How do you feel about this? Did it make you feel apprehensive? Did you feel frustrated? Was there any biases that we may have subconsciously added within our visuals that need to be checked, or our language? These are great opportunities to build that connection. And I feel that with our community across the board, as Latinos, Hispanos, whether we've been here 1 year, 5 years, or generations, when we see people who are genuinely trying to make a difference and they're genuinely trying to learn, we don't take it as an insult when it's a mistake that, like, oh, they added this here. Generally speaking, we don't take it as an insult because we know it's genuine, that they're trying to evolve. And I think that that's important, that we don't shut people off when they're trying to make an effort to market to us, instead of Mi papá always says, my dad always says, más abejas se matan con miel que con hiel. I don't know what the exact translation would be in English, but it's kind of like you kill more bees with honey, or you get more action by being kind and not yelling at someone, unless it's something like terrible that they would put out. Then I could see people getting frustrated, but it's we cannot also expect for people who aren't in our community to get us 100%. That's why you need those allies. And what you are doing, Viviana, I think that is such an important thing that people within our community, if they're at that capacity to do, would be great. Or companies finding people of diverse backgrounds, not just, an example would be, Viviana, if they say, oh, and I'm not saying the companies that you're with, but someone says, you know what, Viviana, we want you because you're Latina, but your children are also Black. So we want you to be able to tell us everything about that. And you know what, guess what? Since you know about these communities, how about you also tell us about the Asian community? So many companies have, they say they focus on diversity and equity and inclusion, but then they have a one person department that they expect them to know about all the cultures, which is a no-go. And you said something so powerful, that they brought people or bring in people from different cultures, different backgrounds, who know what that community is like, what the needs are like, and they're an expert. It's not just because they happen to be that, they're an expert in that area, so that you can get more
Right.
insights, and it's just better results that way.
Right. I don't know if you remember when we had Vivian Oden from the Hampton Roads Community Foundation. She's the VP for Equity and Inclusion for her organization. And when I met her, I was with the so one of the things that I want to mention too, for like people that want to advertise or learn our language from a business perspective, I would say that in majority of the cities, there's a Hispanic Chamber of Commerce or a Latino Chamber of Commerce or Asian Chamber of Commerce. Like in our area, the Black Chamber of Commerce is called Black Brand. So I think you just have to be intentional about reaching out, like get creative. Like, how do I tap into that community? So I would say through the chamber, and it's networking, right? Because once you go to one of these events, it just takes one person to me that is like the plug.
Yeah.
But I remember when Vivian and I met, she just said, hey, Viviana, like, again, she sought out after the Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, and I was a part of it. So we had coffee one day, and she said, can you just tell me, like, what is the difference between Spanish, Latino, Hispanic, and all of that? Like, that was the beginning of our conversation, right? So why would I not like engage with that? And even if I
Mm-hmm.
didn't know the answer, like, that's awesome that she can ask me that question. Luckily, thank God, I knew the
Yeah.
difference by that time, right? When I met her, because I didn't know that for a long time. But just
Mhm.
to have that transparency, I think it's amazing, because
Mhm.
and it's genuine. It's genuine. I think that's
Yeah.
the biggest piece, right? That there I can tell that you are being intentional about getting to know my culture.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
that's the key, right? And like how you were
Yes.
talking about telling the story, and I will forever tell that story to people about Vivian.
Mhm.
And this was like 4 or 5 years ago when her and I met. And whenever people ask, that's my story. That's how I connected with
Yeah.
her.
I love that. And that just shows the power of how much more we can do when we can have those conversations, be in those spaces where she clearly felt safe in asking you that question, but she also really genuinely wanted to learn. And you were excited about like sharing that. And like how you said, why would I not tell her? And that's where, and just even seeing how you were retelling that story, se te veía la felicidad. Like you could tell that like these are the things that make us happy. These are the things that make a difference in getting to know us, because we love sharing part of our story for any community, any culture. Someone comes and asks you, say, hey, tell me about this, tell me about this tradition that you guys have. Like, oh my God, I get to talk about,
Right.
my culture. And so approaching things in that lens is so powerful. And I really feel that this world could benefit from us wanting to learn from other cultures, even just to learn from other cultures and experience things. I know we've talked about using food as an example. It's like an entryway to learning about different cultures and these conversations. I just feel our life is just so much more enriched by these experiences than when we stick to what we are comfortable with, when we're, you know, our own little world. And so that's the power in just stepping out of our comfort zone.
Yeah, because I could count in one hand how many people have asked me, have felt free to ask me that question, right? So what I've had to do sometimes, I tell them because I
Mhm.
sometimes feel, I'm big on energy. So I might walk into
Yes.
a room and if, of course, if it's appropriate, like, and they start to talk about culture and all that stuff, like I will put it out there in a way that they're like, oh, so what's the difference, um because sometimes they don't want to hurt my feelings. They don't want to, they
Mhm.
don't, I would say 90% of the time they're not asking because they don't want to make me feel any type of way, not because
Mm.
they don't want
Mhm.
to or because they want to insult me. It's just they're being cautious not to hurt me,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
majority of people are good people. Majority, I would say,
Mhm.
just in the world, most of us are good people.
Mhm.
So they don't
Yeah.
do it with those ill intentions.
Mhm. I love how you said that too, like reading the room and kind of picking up on these things. It's that self-awareness of, oh, I think people might be curious about asking this, but they're wanting to be respectful. And if you open the door, I think that that also is more of como reciprocating in una manera, like you open the door for that communication and you build that bridge. I really think that
Mhm.
that's kind of like that we
It
can
is,
build
yeah.
bridges
And just
going
like,
both ways.
yeah, every time like something is put on my lap to continue in that path, right? So probably about 2 weeks ago, I went to a training about talking circles. And it was like the circles are like indigenous, it's like an indigenous ritual that was used where everybody sits in a circle and everybody has a voice, and there's a circle keeper that
Mhm.
make sure that the circle stays protected and respected, right? But no one has more power or more weighted on their voice than the other. The circle keeper is a participant of the circle, right? It's not judge like, or it's not someone that's in power, right, to tell you what to
Mhm.
do, like, no. And then we use a talking piece and we can activate the talking piece or not activate it. um, so that it's pretty much aligned with a lifestyle, because you can't just
Mhm.
be a circle keeper or participate in a circle and be different when you're out of the circle, like living your daily life, right? So I
Mhm.
was like super, like, I'm still excited, and it was 2 weeks ago, about the whole circle, because I want to get
Wow.
more training, right? Like there's a level one, two, and
Yeah.
three, and I did the
Mhm.
one, and I'm seeking, like, how do I get the second and the third one? Because it's
Oh, wow.
aligned with my mentality. And even
Mhm.
though, like, I'm in that realm and I think that way of respect and respecting other people's voices, but it just that level one training took me to another level. Like, it was amazing.
Wow.
And the fact that it was an indigenous teaching,
Mhm.
right? And
Mhm.
we all have indigenous backgrounds, whether we're from Colombia or Africa or India. Everybody had indigenous people. So
Mm.
it was amazing.
Oh my God, yeah, I think that you should have a whole show where we talk about that as you go through the different levels, because that idea of using something physical to activate when you're gonna talk or not activate, and the idea of equality in the circle and having someone kind of making sure that it stays a safe place
Yeah.
really roots back into how we used to be, before the whole capitalism thing. Like we used to gather in circles, we used to tell stories by
I'm
the
gonna ask
fire.
the lady that trained me to see if she wants to be on the show, because I didn't
Oh
even
my
think about it.
gosh, that would be amazing.
Yes. Like, let
Because
me give you
because
an
it's like
example, Nicte. This is why
connectivity.
I got so excited about it. Well, one of the
I'm getting
reasons.
excited.
So, because they have different type of circles, right? So you can have a conflict resolution circle or just a talking circle, right? And so she said there was a scenario where some teenagers vandalized the building. So the owners of the building know about circles. So instead of calling the cops, they called the circle, right? So they were in the circle. They found, why did you do it? How did it make us feel? Because everybody has a voice, right? So like the
Mhm.
people whose building got damaged, and then the kids that made the damage, they were all in the circle, right? And so they were able to come up with the reason why everything was done, everybody's feelings, however the circle went. And at the end, the kids were part of the solution. So the kids painted the building, they fixed the building, they ended up building a relationship, and then the kids were volunteers of that organization later. So instead of
Wow.
damaging their public record and have a police record, a criminal record, they were able to engage in circle and fix the issue.
Wow. Oh my
Isn't
gosh.
that amazing?
That is amazing that it could have gone so wrong for those kids. And now they also then become advocates of the power of having a voice, and being
Yeah.
able to be heard. Wow. Oh my gosh. Yeah. This, yeah, Viviana, this has to be a topic. And because I'm getting just excited about the possibilities. And I think too, it's what this sounds like, it's giving people a chance to have a voice then, and when they might have not, have had that, who knows what the kids' experiences were growing up, and that they were given that opportunity to explain what was going through their mind in that moment, that someone took the time to just give them that platform. I can only imagine what that did for them in their life, not just that moment, but just in their life, that someone took
Yeah.
that time to do that. And oh my gosh, yeah.
And
There's
I
like,
got that
does
initial
she do
training
virtual
because of it.
training?
Huh?
Does she do virtual training? Oh my
Yeah,
God, I
they
think I
they
might want
do
to learn
virtual
about this.
circles.
Really?
Yeah.
I'm gonna have
I'll
to look
send you the
into this because
information.
this,
Yeah.
see, please. Oh
Yeah,
my
it's amazing.
gosh.
And so I got the training through the Hampton Roads Community Foundation. That's why I love them to death. And that's why I have brought
Oh my
Vivian on
gosh,
board,
yeah.
because Vivian invited me
Mm,
to get trained. So we're actually here in Hampton Roads, and I'm going to be advertising it. They're going to do a series of 6 circles
mm.
in Hampton Roads to talk about peacemaking and culture and diversity. And I'm one
Oh,
of the circle keepers for that series. It's amazing. I just
oh
love it. That's
my
why I want to like,
gosh.
can I get to level 2 and 3? Like, how do I do this?
Yeah. Oh my gosh, that's so exciting. I can't wait to hear more about it because it sounds so incredible to the potential that you can get from that, and just being in that space where people can feel safe talking, because I think that's what we don't get enough of today, because people hide behind the phone, and you hear all about the trolls, and but at the bottom of people might be having a really bad day, they might be really unhappy in their lives, and they might have not had a space where they can talk and be heard and supported. So oh my gosh, yeah, I am just thinking about, like, circles
Yeah,
for
it was
brands,
great.
how
And
people
when we
can have
did the
these
training, like
conversations.
we did the training, we did the training in circle. So we did our own circle, but we were training to be circle keepers, but
Um,
we went through the process of the circle.
oh, I love that. Oh my gosh, yeah. I am so
Mhm.
excited
I'll
about
send you
that.
the information, and I'll reach
Yeah.
out to the lady that trained me.
Oh, that would be amazing. That would be such an amazing thing to do,
Yeah.
and,
'Cause, like, when
I
I
think
finished
even
the
just
training, I was like, "I'm gonna do a
mhm,
circle with my kids. I wanna do a
I
parent
love
circle,"
that.
like, all of that.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, yeah, because you can apply that to so many things. So many things. And the impact, like, I'm even seeing you smiling all about that, like, just the
Mhm.
impact that
I love
that
it.
has. Oh my gosh, yeah. Yeah, we
Mhm.
totally have to, that might be, like, since there's 3 levels, you might have to do, like, 3 series, like, 3 shows, part 1, 2, and 3.
I mean, there is, like it's and I hate to say it 'cause when we were doing the training, I was like, we're talking in circles, right? And talking in circles sounds like something that's not a good thing, right? But, like, these
Mhm.
circles are freaking amazing. And we're
Oh,
not
what
talking in circles, it's just everybody is involved in
oh, I
the
love
conversation, in the
that.
process, and whatever it is. It's
Oh
amazing,
my gosh,
like
that's
life changing.
amazing. Oh my god, and it sounds like no one feels overwhelmed. It just feels like it's a great energy throughout that experience. Oh, that's awesome.
Hmm.
Yeah, we
I'll tell you
definitely
one
have
more
to
thing
talk
about it
about
because we
that.
only have 5 minutes left. So the young lady that and I hope she tells me okay to being on the show, which I'm sure she will because she's amazing. But she created a circle, and so the circle is for people that have been through sexual abuse. So they have different,
Mhm,
and they're color coded. The circles are color
mhm.
coded. So if
Oh,
you were sexually abused, is like a green circle. If you were the person that abused, you might be in the purple. And I'm sure I'm messing up the colors. But there's
mhm,
another circle for people that were abusers. And then there's a circle for
mhm,
people that were sexually abused, but also abused. And then they'll have another circle
mhm.
for people that support people that were sexually abused or were abusers. And so it just creates a dynamic in the circles for healing.
Mm, wow.
Like it can get real deep.
I
That's why
can
you need
only
the training
yeah,
for the different levels. But they're healing
yeah, because I could
circles.
imagine. Wow. Yeah,
Hmm.
because I could imagine that brings a lot of emotions and helping people navigate those emotions. Yeah, definitely. You have to have a certain finesse to it too. Wow. Oh my
Yeah, so I'm
gosh.
sure they
Yeah.
have like
I would
marriage circles, family circles, like
yeah.
branding color circles for your field,
Oh
like
my
business circles.
gosh.
Like you could
Yeah.
implement it to so many things.
Oh my
PTA
God. Yes. TMO,
circles.
ABC, CSI, NBC, all the all the
Hmm.
all the above. Man, that is so cool. Yeah, I would love
Yeah,
to
it's
hear
amazing. Like it was super
all the
exciting.
examples. Yeah. Yeah, that would be really great because I think that that could be a good
I love it.
conversation
I
we could
love it.
have around how
Hmm.
you can use that for in life, in different aspects. And you know what I love about this process that you're telling me, I think, Viviana, it teaches us to be better listeners because sometimes we love to talk about our experiences, la la la, and it teaches us to pause and listen, which I know you're really good at. You're really good
Yeah.
about pausing and not reacting and listening. But I think it's something that we could all learn a lot more about.
Hmm. Yeah, and like anything could be like this could be your talking piece, right? So if I have this, like we have to respect the talking piece. Like that's one of the rules in the circle. So that's why everybody gets an opportunity to speak as long as you have the talking piece.
Well, I love that. And are they limited by the talking piece,
Amazing.
or
I love it.
is it
But
the
our
person that
hour is
leads?
up. Can you believe it?
I think we have a little lag, my internet.
We do. What was your question?
I was just my last quick question because I know we're at time. Does every person have a certain amount of time that they get to talk, or is it the person who's leading the circle keeper who defines, like, okay, it's time for the next person?
So first of all, we wouldn't use the word leader, right? Because that gives the person power. So it's the circle keeper. So it is my job to keep the circle in the flow or whatever. We can set a time. The talking piece could be
Mhm.
a timer, right? Like, and as the circle
Mm.
keeper, you keep that in mind. So, like for example, if you start to see that they're taking too long to talk and to pass the piece, you can introduce a new talking piece. So we're going to start using this new talking piece. So that's my job as the circle keeper
Oh,
to read the circle, to keep the circle
mm,
safe.
fascinating. Well, I can't wait till we talk more about this.
Yes. That's like a whole nother show, like 3 or 4. We gotta
Yes.
add it to our
Yes.
spreadsheet. Yep. But thank you so much to
Absolutely.
our audience, whoever was watching us.
Yes.
Uh, and super excited because I'm excited about the circles, talking in circles. I love it. And I
Yeah.
love the $3.2 trillion that we are contributing to the economy. One of the topics that we're going to talk about soon, Nicte, is at least $3.2 trillion that we're spending. How much of it are we rotating amongst us, or are we giving that
Mm,
money to other people, and why? So that's
mhm.
one of the topics we're going to talk about as well.
I love that.
Um, mhm. So, oh, I'm sorry. So we'll be here every Sunday at 4 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, and we're ready for Maddie's poem. Even though she's not here, we still go ahead and make that happen.
It's our
My
tradition.
fails all day, well, since yesterday, so I'm just gonna read today. So click, click, pose. Look closely. Can you see the void beneath the surface? In the eyes, the empty spaces, loneliness, screaming, crying, losing hope, begging for someone to notice, barely hanging on. A smile. It's what happens right before the break. Before the beast tears off my chest, the constant battle with this demon who threatens to drown me whole. I try to loosen from his grip. I swim up to the surface, hoping to get to breathe. Pose. For a second, I try hard to forget how the weight of the world pulls me down. At night, I can't sleep. Nightmares on Elm Street. I stay awake thinking of ways to stay alive, yet I close my eyes. I lay in a postpartum state, so when the Grim Reaper finds me, his job is more than halfway done. I am done, but I survive. For some strange reason, I get to do it again. It's Groundhog's Day, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Friday. They all feel the same. I feel the same exact pain. I cast a lifeline into the world in desperate mode. Click, click, pose. My brain unsteady, like an elephant walking a tightrope. Scattered puzzle pieces that can't seem to make a coherent thought. I think of Chesley, attorney, spokesperson, Miss USA, who had her shit together and still she killed herself. From the 29th floor, she jumped. Depression knows no gender, socioeconomic status. Hurt is hurt. Some can voice it better. Others get lost in the waves. Most days, I surf. It is on those better days I take selfies instead of asking for help. You never know what's been brewing when someone is in a dark place. So when you see those selfies, don't just click on the picture. Check on your strong friends.
So the reason I became a financial advisor is because someone sat me down, and I know that we have a misconception, or it's so taboo to talk about money. I mean, being Latina, I am Colombian, we don't want to talk about that F word, and finances is something we just didn't grow up talking enough about. My parents we immigrated to this country, and they've always ran businesses, and I know that if someone would have either sat them down or persisted more or just had that thorough conversation with them about, how to apply some of these things and how to make sure that they can be, just a little bit better and do some more things for their future or retirement goals, just really has shaped my life. And I know I wanted that within my community.
So the GHCC, the Georgia Hispanic Chamber's mission is really to be the economic engine for our Hispanic businesses. And when we think about the growth and explosion of our Hispanic business community, especially with 1.1 million Latinos now here in population in the state of Georgia, coming to the Georgia Hispanic Chamber is coming to family. It's coming to people who care, who have a passion and a purpose to serve. So at the GHCC, you can find education, you can find resources, a group of talented, driven servant leaders who have a passion to serve our business community, because we know that small businesses are the pulse and the heartbeat of all that we do.
Once I started working with the businesses and hearing their stories, I was blown away. One of the big things that I realized in creating some of these programs, some of these cohorts, We were trying to teach them how to fish, but then I realized that many of them couldn't even afford the fishing pole. And that's what we're here for. We're here to provide resources to wherever you are in your journey to help you to get you to the next level.
La cámara es el lugar perfecto para nosotros los hispanos. Es el lugar donde tienen todas las herramientas para que nosotros como small business nos demos la oportunidad de seguir creciendo.
You know, so I just want to say, like, I'm super grateful for the Chamber of Commerce for being kind of like that life raft.
The way the members of the Chamber of Commerce interact with you, as I always say, it's like a family.
Right now is the time for us to reimagine the next for our Hispanic business community.
Isabella Jimenez created the My Fun Food app in 2018 as a project for the Mayor's Fitness Council in San Antonio, Texas, with the purpose of promoting nutrition and healthy lifestyles.
The app, like the main purpose of the app was to provide a resource to the community. I really wanted to focus on the younger generations as well, like not only focusing on mine, but the younger kids as well. Right now, like the United States, I feel like is kind of like an obesity diabetes crisis in regards to children's health care.
While Isabella started the project before graduating high school, she's now been focusing on her career as a college student.
I'm a business major, hopefully declaring my major as either marketing or management information systems.
Since the last time Salud America was able to catch up with Isabella, she's been able to learn, grow, and gain experience in her journey through college.
So far it's been fun. I've been able to surround myself with a good group of people. I'm enjoying my classes a lot. I'm very engaged with the classes that I'm currently in. It's so interesting learning about the different aspects of the business world. I didn't realize how much like technology had an influence in the business world, and learning about that has been an awesome experience.
Despite all of her work, Isabella is still aiming to improve the My Fun Food app.
So over the summer, I had an internship with Powerhouse Bakery. I'm currently partners with them, Suzanne Parker, who's the founder. And over the summer and a little bit of the school year, I was able to implement more recipes into the app that were cancer patient friendly as well, which was one of the big reasons why I partnered with Powerhouse, is that they do such a huge impact on the community in regards to cancer patients and as well as the overall healthcare of San Antonio.
While she's already accomplished so much, Isabella still has big goals ahead.
Well, in regards to the app, like I hopefully do want to infiltrate it like to more UT students as well. I feel like it's a huge beneficial resource for them. Not only just college kids, but as well as families. I really want to touch more on local school districts in San Antonio, not only in San Antonio, but Austin as well, because I'm going to school there. Like my goal in life is like I'm provided all these privileges. I grew up with amazing opportunities, and I want to be able to give back some of those opportunities to people.
Check out Isabella's full story and discover more of our Salud heroes at saludamerica.org.
Are just so impressed with them. Like I said, we've been with them for years. I will recommend and refer anyone to them. We stand by A+ academics. They're the best.
A+ tutorial really did help me with all my grades. They all went up when I came to this place. And I would say I recommend this school to everyone.
So it's a really good environment to be in, especially for me, because it makes me look up to my parents.
If you have students that need academic help, A+ Academics is the place to be.
A+ Academics, what a great place to go for academics.
It's just a really great place to learn.